Keep films weird. Keep films weird. Keep films weird.
No, I do know that. I don't like being like told things about myself.
And today we have The Sweet East. Got very lucky, so I started seeing trailers for this one. This is definitely an independent film. Hell, I think it's still technically unrated, but I've been seeing trailers at my, say with me now, my local art house cinema. But long story short, we got to see an early access like roadshow tour showing, and what was even cooler is we got to have the screenwriter of the film there in the room, in the building, and afterwards he had a little Q&A sesh. We got to kind of get behind the mind of the fellow that wrote this thing, and that's definitely something that a lot of us wanted to do at the end of this movie. The Sweet East is directed by a Sean Price Williams. Although this guy has been in the business and has literally over 100 credits on IMDb for cinematography, camera, and electrical department. This is his first full-length feature. So these are always fun ones to review. Last review I did was for Lisa Frankenstein with Zelda Williams, her directorial debut. A lot last year too. A lot of great directors that are like sprouting up here and they're out of nowhere. Technically, he did help to co-direct a movie in 2011, so like a long time ago. He hasn't done much in the way of his own films, but he did technically co-direct a movie called Eyes Find Eyes. So if you really want to get technical, he has a shared directorial credit, but I consider this one like his baby. In terms of the cast, the main star is a Talia Ryder. Probably know her best from Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, and or Do Revenge. I did cover on this channel the remake of West Side Story. She was in that. Apparently they filmed this like years ago. They filmed this, which is going to be very ironic in a moment considering the cast. In terms of who's in it besides Talia, just some small names you might have heard of. Ayo Edebiri is in this, who I most recently covered on my review for Bottoms, but you'd probably know from stuff like The Bear, as well as Jacob Elordi. Whoa, the homie of the Elvis man himself. Recently covered in Saltburn. You might know him from Scary Movie 3. I know him for when I covered him in Red Rocket. We have Simon Rex. And I did a review for a while ago for Red Rocket. Anyway, The Sweet East. I can't even tell you, I guess going blind or watch the trailer, because the trailer just basically gives you a very vague idea of okay, it's a girl who goes on this adventure and a lot of weird stuff happens, and that's pretty much it. That's the movie. This is my kind of movie. These are the kinds of movies where it has the formula down in an appropriate amount. By that I mean it's weird, grounded, it's got some controversial things to say. Somebody during the Q&A put it really well too. They said it's a movie that's offensive, but it's it's offensive and you love it, that type of deal. But this film is, it's doing a lot for sure. It's this gal, she's on a field trip to DC. What is it, high school, I guess? She's young, I believe she's underage, but she gets separated from her group, and then she just keeps on being meeting person after person and stumbling and wandering from situation to situation. And these people are weird and varied and have very different leanings, both socially and politically, and she's just kind of existing through it all, and just weird humans being weird humans. I have no complaints about any of the acting. Our main lead character, she has this weird, I don't know, do I say enchanting? Her character is just not even trying. People are yet somehow just allured by her, and she becomes a foil for them, like a soundboard in a way. But she just has this way about her where, even as the film is going on, I'm thinking, do I like this person? And yet at the same time, since we're spending the most time with her, you can't help but to root for her and her journey and just see where she goes next and hope that she, maybe just stays clear of some trouble. All the other people that she meets, regardless of their moral compass, they all act very well and embody their characters very well. very painfully so sometimes, in a very like socially awkward way. The tagline from a different critic said it is a riotous Alice in Wonder America, which is, yeah, I mean, literally there's some very clearly written parallels in this movie to Alice in Wonderland, to the point where we even go through a looking glass, for lack of a better description. I think it just highlights the oddities of Americana, you know, just when you're in your bubble. I don't know how much any of you guys or gals travel, but when you're in your bubble, the people around you, you know, they become familiar, safe. You see weird stuff on the news or on like TikTok, some weird homeless guy pooping in a subway car or something, sure. It's not till you really get out there and see the cream of the crop, or if you find yourself in mixed company or odd social circles, where you soon truly realize how crazy human beings are, how messed up so much of the country is. And so she just kind of experiences that as somebody, we come to find out, who would not have been exposed to a whole bunch of this in her home life. But I like this because it's like a quirky, odd, dangerous adventure she goes on. It keeps things interesting. You never really know what's going to happen next. There are even a couple jaw-dropping moments. It has its oddities, and yet as the film progresses and our character goes through, she doesn't overreact to anything. She just kind of like exists through it. So it's almost up to us, the audience, to be like, oh my god, what this is a time and a half, huh? And I do like how inherently in that paradigm here, she is thrust from situation to situation and then forced to adapt. Movies like that kind of go, and then they go in weird ways and directions, but don't get too esoteric and too out there. I don't think this film ever got too off track. Things progressed the way they progressed, and it was just interesting and entertaining, and just kind of had my curiosity piqued. And I will say, it was unironically very funny. We were in an almost sold out showing, so a full room of people. So I don't know how the reactions would be if they were like only me and like 3 others in there. But with a room full of people, almost every single joke and punchline that was put up in this film, or much of these moments, got a reaction, got a laugh. I like to think that at least 80% of it did actually like resonate with me. There's a lot of dry delivery, and it's a lot of the characters and what they're saying and doing, and sometimes just purely the absurdity of what a character just said, or the situation that our main character finds herself in, where the humor is to be then drawn from. So it's just like, you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe this shit. But we'll get to the negatives, because I do want to be fair and honest. Here's the funny thing. I went with 3 of my friends, literally down the middle. 2 of us really liked the movie, 2 of us did not like the movie. I was one of the 2 that liked the movie, and I was actually kind of surprised to hear my friends say they didn't like it. Upon discussing the points they brought up, their thesis made sense. Like, I get it. Where they're coming from, 100% I can understand. I don't agree with the final outcome of the equation, if that makes any sense. But I will say, there's not really any grand narrative or thesis to be had here. Because sometimes you have a movie like, what's the gold standard for me? Everything Everywhere All at Once. A movie that is weird and wild and wacky and crazy and gets really out there conceptually and in its dialogue and characters. I could go on and on. But no matter how crazy and buck wild that movie gets, it is still grounded by a very compelling, very well acted, well written family drama. A whole bunch of concepts, basically. This movie has all the weird, and definitely has a story, in that the story is her on this little journey experiencing things, but we don't really have major character change. We don't really have a major character arc. It's almost similar to the last movie, again, that I reviewed, Lisa Frankenstein. The character just kind of exists, and maybe there's some change in there in her chemistry. In this movie, she really just kind of adopts personalities based on who she meets and figures out how to subtly manipulate people. To her credit, it's not necessarily toxic, it's just her trying to survive and get through these dangerous and often negative situations by picking up on things that she's heard along her way and along her journey. But like, by the end of the movie, I still don't know how to feel about her, which might be the point. And I guess the main message is that another tagline that they show in the film and on the poster, everything will happen. The absurdity and craziness of the world, and in particularly the country that we in the United States live in. Dealing with that and coming to realize that all this exists outside of her home. But at the same time, having that room and space to breathe is like appealing to her, because where she's from, there's not much in the way of space or breathing room. I don't know. We could theorize all day, and plenty of people already are and were, both in the Q&A and after the movie, but I'll be the first to admit and agree with my friends that didn't like the film. While there are definitely some messages and some things that were being said in the film that I appreciated, stuff about the I don't know, the toxicity of men, the badness of neo-Nazis and fascism, and how women are kind of often used as inherently a sounding board for people, just to for men to project themselves onto, and just as they're looking for somebody to talk to, and just how people in power maybe can also try to sometimes have the capacity to use that power to take advantage of people. There's a lot of things this film is saying. Does that all come together for some story, or some one pure story or narrative cohesion, is a matter of debate and speculation. And this one I put as a con, but also it's more of a question I'm kind of positing to you, the audience, if you've seen it. This is kind of the argument that I made after the film was all said and done. The biggest thing is, does it need a point? Is it one of those films where I would just consider it, I keep losing the word, experiential, I believe. Is it not just one of those films? I feel like it is anyway. Maybe there's no grand message or story to be experienced. There's no ultimate hidden meaning. There's no grand odyssey. We don't have Odysseus going on some grand journey. Perhaps it is just a film that you sit down and just experience, similar to how our main character is just being thrust from situation to situation and experiencing what the east side of the United States has to offer. We can sit here and speculate all day. I think I'm in the camp of the movie doesn't really have a singular point. I think it has some things to say. I think it had some fun little quirky and varied stories to tell. In terms of pacing, there's some scenes that didn't need to necessarily exist or that don't quite make sense. I lean towards that. There's some scenes that don't quite make sense that affect the pacing and the character a little bit, and it was pointed out to me after our viewing as well. I think where the film lacks the most is its narrative cohesion. If I could just have the director explain to me what he was trying to do, even when the screenwriter was going over it, which, by the way, the live Q&A afterwards was really cool. It was cool to hear from his mind how this all came to be. But even as he's answering these questions, I felt like I wasn't really getting answers, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure there are answers there, and I would love to have a deeper, even more thoughtful discussion about it, particularly with the director if I could. But in lieu of that, I'm left kind of here with my dick in my hand wondering, what was the point of it all? End of the day, I really, really enjoyed The Sweet East, personally. But I will admit that I have many conflicting feelings within me. And it's not a perfect film, but the quality of the film, was it all there? For the most part, it almost all was. My personal enjoyment was up there. I laughed a lot. I was along for the ride. I enjoyed it. There was some fun little instances of models being used, actual building models. I mean, there's even a weird alien character who I still we don't have why was he there? We don't know. We'll never know, probably. Just one of those great mysteries of the universe. I understand how people wouldn't like this film, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it. For all those reasons, I would give The Sweet East I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I give it a 4 out of 5. Will it be my top 10 for the year? I mean, probs not. I don't think so. But I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it, and I like it when filmmakers kind of break away from conventions to make odd, interesting experiences that are definitely different from your typical cinematic experience. It's a cautionary tale as well. That can be both good and bad. And this film does leave you wanting a bit more, a bit something else. The screenwriter said there is technically a 3-hour cut somewhere, and when he described a couple of the cut scenes, they seemed like they would have added more character and depth to our main character, which is kind of what you want in a film like that. That's all I gotta say about The Sweet East. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.